I used to believe we were the kind of couple people pointed at and said, "That's love that lasts." The ones who made it through the chaos of the world untouched, steady, unshaken. Ethan and I had been married for 10 years, and in that time, our life had become a quiet choreography of comfort, predictable, familiar, almost cinematic in its calm. Every morning in Brookhaven felt the same. The sun hit the kitchen window at the same angle, lighting the steam rising from his black coffee. The kids argued about cereal flavors, I packed lunches, and Ethan buttoned his charcoal gray suit while humming some half-forgotten tune from the radio. It was the kind of morning people take for granted, the kind that hides danger in its perfection. That particular morning, there was nothing unusual. He kissed my forehead, said, "Big meeting today, don't wait up for dinner," and left. The sound of the door closing didn't feel like an ending, just routine. I remember the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the hallway, sharp and clean, like his lies. Later, while cleaning the house, I noticed the SUV parked in the garage, our old family car coated in a thin layer of dust. It looked forgotten, abandoned even, the way marriages sometimes die quietly in the corners of a home. I thought I'd surprise him, make it shine again. Maybe it would make him smile, remind him that I still cared about the little things. The air in the garage was still and heavy, the kind that amplifies silence. I wiped the hood, feeling that familiar satisfaction of order being restored. But when I opened the glove compartment, a meaningless, automatic motion, my hand brushed against something small, unfamiliar. A box, sealed, brand new. At first, my brain refused to register it. My hand trembled slightly as I turned it over. Condoms, the kind we'd never used. I froze, staring at them as if they were alive. The air in the room thickened, pressing against my lungs. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator from inside the house, the distant laughter of my kids watching cartoons, the sounds of a normal day that suddenly felt alien. We hadn't used protection in years, not since trying for another baby, the one that never came. So why these? Why now? My heart pounded in my ears, each beat like a hammer. I set the box down carefully on the passenger seat, afraid even to breathe too loudly. It was absurd to be afraid of something so small. And yet, that box was a loaded gun pointed at everything I thought I knew. 1,000 excuses rushed in. Maybe he bought them years ago and forgot. Maybe they weren't his. Maybe there was some logical, laughable explanation. Anything was easier than the truth pressing against my chest. But then I noticed the details, the clean packaging, the dustless surface, the way it was tucked behind papers as if intentionally hidden. It wasn't random, it wasn't old, it was deliberate. A sharp pain spread from my chest to my throat. I gripped the steering wheel, staring at the empty driveway through the windshield. The world outside kept moving, leaves rustling, cars passing, but mine had stopped cold. For a moment, I couldn't even cry. The betrayal was too raw to bleed. I slammed the glove box shut, the sound echoing through the garage like a slap, as if the noise itself could deny what I'd seen. But it was too late. Something inside me had cracked quietly, permanently. I walked back into the house, moving through the hallway like a ghost. The walls seemed narrower, the air colder. The smell of coffee, once comforting, now made me nauseous. I sat on the edge of the sofa, hands trembling in my lap, eyes fixed on nothing. When Ethan called that afternoon, his voice was cheerful. "How's your day, babe? Everything okay?" I wanted to scream, but the words stuck behind my teeth. Instead, I whispered, "Everything's fine," and hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. The sound of his breathing beside me, once steady, now unbearable, felt like a stranger's rhythm. I watched the ceiling fan spin in lazy circles, over and over, as my mind replayed the same question: who is she? At 3 a.m., I got up, walked back to the garage, and stared at the SUV again. The silence in there wasn't empty anymore. It was alive, humming with the weight of secrets. I leaned against the car door, tears finally slipping free, not out of rage but disbelief. By sunrise, I made a decision that scared me more than the truth itself. I would not ask. I would not cry. I would not confront him, not yet. Some betrayals deserve witnesses. Others deserve consequences. And as the first light broke through the garage window, glinting off the silver handle of that glove box, I realized something chilling. If he had built a secret life behind my back, I would learn how to build my silence into a weapon. Lauren turned off the light, locked the garage, and whispered to herself, "Let's see how deep this lie goes." Morning light spilled through the blinds like thin blades, slicing across the quiet kitchen. Ethan had already left for... Lauren stared at it for a long mo. For the past week, she'd lived inside a strange theater of silence, pretending nothing had changed, performing the same smiles, the same "how was your day" routine. She moved through the house like an actress, in a role she no longer believed in. He thought her silence meant ignorance. But silence, On Saturday morning, she drove into Midtown. The sky was cloudless, the kind of sharp blue that usually made her feel alive. Not today. She parked near a row of small loca. She wasn't sure why she ended up there, only that something was guiding her, something quiet, deliberate, burning just below the surface. The shop was tiny, tucked between a bakery and a record store. The sign read Atlanta Spice Market, painted in peeling gold letters. The moment she stepped inside, the air changed thick with scents of smoke, pepper, citrus, and something wilder. Shelves glowed with reds, oranges, and browns, jars labeled ghost pepper, smoked paprika, habanero flakes. Behind the counter stood a woman in her 60s, tall and calm, her hair tied back in a gray scarf. "Morning, sweetheart," she said, her southern drawl soft but firm. "What can I get you?" Lauren hesitated, scanning the jars. "Something strong," she replied, "something that burns." The woman's eyes lifted, assessing her quietly, as though reading a secret. "You sure about that, honey? Most folks who ask for that kind of heat don't know what they're really asking for." Lauren smiled faintly. "I do." The woman handed her a small packet. "Habanero. It burns fast, leaves a mark." Her words hung in the air like prophecy. As she left, the woman called after her, "Be careful what you want scorched. Sometimes the fire doesn't stop where you expect." Lauren walked out, clutching the paper bag to her chest. The late morning sun hit her face, but the warmth did nothing to soften the chill inside her. That afternoon, the house was quiet again. Ethan had texted that he'd be working late, punctuated with a thumbs-up emoji. She stared at the message until it blurred, then turned off her phone. Every corner of the house felt different now, every sound magnified. The ticking clock in the living room was deafening. The hum of the refrigerator became a low growl. She moved mechanically, cleaning, folding, rearranging anything to keep her mind from splintering. In the mirror, she caught her reflection, pale, tired, eyes too sharp. She almost didn't recognize herself. The version of Lauren that used to laugh at Ethan's jokes, that baked cinnamon rolls on Sundays, that believed loyalty was a given, that woman was gone. What remained was someone quieter, heavier, forged by humiliation. And underneath the silence, something fierce was waking up, not hatred exactly, but clarity. That night, Ethan came home past 10. He smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't hers, something floral, expensive, not subtle. "Sorry, babe," he said casually, kissing her cheek. "Meeting ran long." Lauren nodded, eyes steady. "Dinner's in the fridge." He didn't notice her hands trembling slightly as she set down his plate. He didn't notice that she watched him longer than usual when he turned away. Inside, she repeated to herself the new rule she'd written in her head. No questions, no scenes, only truth. And truth, she knew now, had to be earned. Ethan ate half his meal, complained about deadlines, scrolled through his phone. She sat across from him, listening, nodding, smiling. It was almost peaceful, that strange, cruel calm before something breaks. When he finally went upstairs to shower, she sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the faint reflection of the hallway light in the window pane. The night air seeped in through the cracks, cool and sharp. She whispered softly to no one, "You chose your fire, now let's see how it burns." Days passed, the routine continued. Ethan's absences grew longer. He started turning his phone face down on the counter, his answers clipped, distracted. Lauren kept playing her part, gentle, understanding, a perfect wife. But inside her mind, she was building a map connecting each lie, each missing hour, each scent that didn't belong. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, she leaned against him, feeling the stiffness in his body. His laugh came half a second too late at every joke. His hand twitched when his phone buzzed. It was almost fascinating how easy it was to spot deceit once you stopped pretending not to. She studied him the way scientists study insects, detached, analytical, watching him destroy himself one small decision at a time. Sunday morning brought an unexpected calm. Ethan left early, muttering about a project review. Lauren didn't ask which project required cologne and a pressed shirt. She spent the morning cleaning the garage again. The same SUV sat there motionless, quiet, holding its secret. She wiped the windshield, staring at her own reflection. The woman in the glass looked older, yes, but stronger. Her fingers grazed the glove compartment, that silent witness. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She already knew what was inside, and what it meant. It wasn't about confronting him anymore, it was about balance, about reclaiming her narrative. The next evening, she hosted a dinner for the kids' spaghetti night, laughter echoing through the kitchen, cartoons blaring from the living room. For the first time in weeks, Lauren smiled genuinely. Not because she was happy, but because she finally understood something vital. Ethan had destroyed their marriage with deceit, but she wouldn't let it destroy her. She wasn't going to shout, cry, or beg. She was going to let the truth reveal itself, and when it did, it would speak louder than any revenge she could plan. That realization gave her power. Late that night, when the house fell silent again, she sat by the window, the city lights flickering through the blinds. The packet from the spice shop sat on the table beside her, unopened, untouched. Its label read, "Habanero handle with care." She ran her thumb over the paper, thinking about Mrs. Jackson's words. "Be careful what you want scorched. Sometimes the fire doesn't stop where you expect." Lauren smiled faintly. "It's not about fire," she murmured. "It's about truth." She folded the paper neatly, placed it in a drawer, and went to bed. But sleep didn't come easily. In her dreams, she saw flames not of anger, but of awakening. A quiet blaze burning away naivety, leaving only strength. Over the next week, things shifted subtly. Ethan grew more secretive. His stories stopped matching. His smiles faded into guilt. Lauren's silence became unbearable for him, and that was the point. At work, colleagues whispered. At home, tension thickened. He'd begun to sense something was off, though he couldn't name it. He avoided her gaze more often, his voice turning brittle when she asked simple questions like, "Will you be home for dinner?" He'd laugh nervously, say, "You worry too much." But it was he who started locking his phone, checking the door twice before leaving, flinching at his own reflection. Lauren didn't need to raise her voice. Her calmness was the mirror in which his guilt saw itself. Then came Thursday. She found a receipt in the laundry, a dinner charge from a restaurant downtown, 2 glasses of wine, 1 dessert. Her chest tightened, not from surprise but confirmation. That evening, Ethan came home later than usual, humming. "Good day?" she asked gently. He nodded, not meeting her eyes. "Busy but good. You?" She smiled. "Productive. I think I'll start taking evening walks again. Clears the head." He nodded, distracted, already retreating upstairs. Lauren watched him go, her expression unreadable. When she stepped outside a few minutes later, the night air was cool against her skin. Downtown lights shimmered in the distance, the same direction Ethan's lies were leading her toward. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. There was no turning back now. The following day, Ethan left early, dressed sharper than usual, whistling. Lauren poured her coffee slowly, savoring the sound. In her mind, she replayed the pattern: early departure, late return, vague excuses. It was almost mathematical now. When the garage door closed behind him, she whispered, "Enjoy your meeting." Then she turned off the kitchen lights and stood in silence, listening to the ticking of the wall clock. Each tick was a countdown to truth, to exposure, to something inevitable. She had no intention of chasing him, not yet. But something inside her whispered that soon, very soon, the world would show her what she already knew. And when that moment arrived, she would be ready not as a victim, but as a witness. Hours later, as the sky deepened into twilight, Lauren found herself standing by the garage again. Through the narrow window, she could see the SUV sitting quietly, almost waiting. The faint reflection of her face merged with the outline of the car, like 2 halves of the same secret. For the first time, she didn't feel fear. She felt anticipation. She whispered into the still air, "Whatever you're hiding, Ethan, I hope she's worth it." The rain came first, a thin drizzle that blurred the Atlanta skyline, washing the city in cold silver. Lauren. S. She'd promised, but promises were fragile things when the heart dim. For weeks, she had collected small proofs, receipts, scents, lies, pieces of a puzzle she hadn't wanted to complete. Tonight felt different. Tonight, instinct had stopped whispering and started screaming. Ethan's meeting had been pushed late again. He'd changed his sigh. Lauren waited 10 minutes after he left the house, then drove out quietly, Headley. The city pulsed around her neon lights. Wet pavement, traffic sighing like a restless crowd. She kept her distance, watching his sedan glide through midtown streets. Every turn felt like confirmation, every red light another chance for him to turn back and prove her wrong. He never did. Finally, his blinker flashed, signaling toward a narrow street lined with brick facades and shuttered cafes. He pulled into the parking Losterling Sioux. Lauren's breath hitched. The wipers clicked, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. She parked farther down, in the shadows of a lamppost. For a long moment, she couldn't move, her body frozen between disbelief and dread. Then the pass. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, wrapped in a beige coat. Even Throg. Amanda Cole. The name hit like a slap. Ethan's coworker, the one who'd laughed at their holiday parties, who'd toasted to strong. Now S. Lauren felt her throat tighten, her hands trembling around the steering wheel. She pressed her lips to. There it was, the truth. No screaming. No confrontation. Ethan placed a hand on Amanda's back, guiding her inside. They disappeared through the glass doors, reflections mel. Lauren stayed. For the first time since the glove box discovery, she didn't feel raw. Hours later, Ethan came. He moved carefully, tiptoeing across the living room, thinking she was asleep. Lauren lay still, eyes open in the dark, breathing slow. When he slid into bed beside her, she caught the faint trace of unfamiliar perfume. That scent told more truth than words ever could. The next morning, the news began to travel the quiet corridors of Ethan's office like a spark in dry grass. An anonymous email had reached the HR inbox, a photo of Ethan and Amanda entering the Sterling Suites, time-stamped, attached with a single line. Professional ethics should not end after office hours. Lauren didn't send it. She didn't need to. Someone else had seen them, a coworker, maybe a hotel clerk. Secrets had a way of outing themselves once the first crack appeared. By noon, the whispers were everywhere. Amanda stopped coming into work. Ethan returned home pale, distracted, anger disguised as exhaustion. When he walked through the door that evening, she greeted him with the same soft tone as always. Long day? He nodded, loosening his tie. Just office drama, people making up stories. Lauren smiled faintly. Stories usually start from truth, don't they? He froze mid-motion. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. She turned back to the sink, washing a plate slowly, methodically. Just an observation. He stood behind her for a long moment, as if searching for words, then left the room. She let the water run long after he'd gone upstairs. The steady hiss was almost soothing, a baptism of lies washing down the drain. Over the following days, Ethan unraveled piece by piece. He spent hours on his phone, whispering in the hallway, snapping when she asked simple questions. His temper frayed, his confidence shrank. Lauren said little. She didn't need to. The silence between them did the work. At school, during lunch breaks, she'd catch herself staring at her reflection in the faculty room window. The woman looking back no longer looked broken. She looked awake. A week later, her phone buzzed while she was grading essays. Unknown number. Are you Ethan's wife? Lauren stared at the message, a cold wave rippling through her chest. Before she could type a reply, another text came through, short, panicked. You need to know what's happening right now. She hesitated only a second, then typed back. Who is this? The answer came immediately. Amanda Cole. Lauren's pulse quickened. She almost dropped the phone. The next messages arrived in fragments, frantic, disordered, as if Amanda were typing through tears. Everything's out. The office knows. Ethan's losing it. They're calling it harassment now. Lauren reread the words until they blurred. She didn't reply. She didn't have to. It wasn't pity she felt, it was the strange, cold satisfaction of watching truth burn without lifting a hand to feed it. That evening, Ethan burst through the front door, his face flushed, jaw tight. They're saying things about me, he spat. At work, Someone sent photos. They're twisting everything." Lauren looked up from the couch. "Are they?" "Yes." He paced the room. "It's nothing like what they think. Amanda and I, it's not." "Don't," she interrupted quietly. "Don't insult me with lies when the world already knows the truth." He stopped pacing. The silence that followed was heavier than shouting. "Lauren," his voice cracked, "I made a mistake." She met his eyes calmly. "No, Ethan, you made a choice." He looked away first. 2 days later, Ethan was asked to take a temporary leave. Corporate language for exile. The company wanted the scandal gone, not explained. Amanda had resigned. HR had locked their accounts. Their names were whispered in every corridor. Lauren watched from a distance as her husband's polished image collapsed. It wasn't vengeance, it was consequence. And through it all, she never said a word. On Friday, she went for a walk downtown. The sky was heavy with clouds again, mirroring the first night she'd followed him. She passed the Sterling Suites. The glass doors gleamed, spotless, pretending they hadn't reflected 1,000 small tragedies. For a moment, she considered going inside to see the lobby where her life had cracked. Instead, she stood on the sidewalk, watching strangers move in and out, carrying secrets of their own. Behind her, someone called her name. "Mrs. Mitchell?" She turned. A man in a gray hotel uniform approached hesitantly. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, "but you left your number here last week, right? Something about a lost item?" Lauren frowned. "No, you must be mistaken." He hesitated, looking embarrassed. "My apologies. Must have been another Mrs. Mitchell." He walked away, leaving her rooted in place. Another Mrs. Mitchell. The words lingered like smoke. She didn't move for nearly a minute. Then, slowly, she exhaled and kept walking, her reflection warping across the wet windows. That night, Ethan didn't come home. He texted once, saying he needed space. Lauren didn't answer. She cooked dinner for the kids, tucked them into bed, then sat on the porch, listening to the quiet hum of Atlanta at night. She thought about Amanda's messages, about the word harassment. She imagined the panic spreading through the office like wildfire, the HR meetings, the gossip, the nervous laughter. Somewhere in the noise of all that chaos, she felt a flicker of justice. Not revenge, something cleaner, sharper. Ethan had built his life on perception. Now perception was devouring him. A few days later, she received another text, this time from a name she hadn't seen in months, Daniel Hawthorne. Amanda's husband. "Mrs. Mitchell, I think we should talk." Lauren stared at the message, her heart thudding slowly, rhythmically. She typed, "About what?" The reply came within seconds. "About the truth." The message glowed between them like a fuse about to burn out. "Tell her to stop." Rain had returned to Atlanta, thin sheets of silver cutting across Centennial Park. Daniel locked his phone, his jaw tight. "He knows we met," he said quietly. Lauren's stomach tightened. "How?" He shook his head. "Maybe he's been watching my calls. Amanda used to sync everything through a shared drive. If Ethan still has access," he trailed off, the thought unfinished but heavy. The fountain hissed behind them, drowning their silence. Lauren finally said, "Then he's afraid." Daniel looked at her, the hint of admiration flickering through worry. "Afraid of what?" "Of what we'll find," she replied. That night, Lauren couldn't sleep. She sat by the window of her small apartment, the city lights blinking like distant warnings. Her laptop glowed faintly on the coffee table. She opened a browser, hesitated, then began to search Ethan's name and the company's. There it was, buried in financial blogs and small print legal filings, a thread of something wrong, a consulting expense routed through a shell firm, initials matching AC Consulting. A.C. Amanda Cole. Lauren's pulse raced. She clicked deeper: invoices, travel reimbursements, electronic signatures. Each click painted a clearer picture. Ethan and Amanda weren't only cheating on their spouses, they were stealing from the company. She stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like an accusation. How far did it go? At 2 a.m., a text arrived from Daniel. "You were right. I found emails between them, transfers, hidden accounts. We need to talk." The next morning dawned heavy with humidity, thunder rumbling somewhere beyond the skyline. Lauren drove to Daniel's neighborhood in Decatur, the air thick with the smell of wet asphalt. Daniel met her at the door, holding a stack of printouts. His living room was scattered with open folders, bank statements, and a laptop humming quietly. "Look at this," he said, spreading the papers across the coffee table. "They've been routing money through a third-party vendor for months. Small enough transactions not to raise alarms, but it adds up." Lauren scanned the pages, her eyes moving faster than her breath. "This is fraud," she whispered. Daniel nodded grimly. "If this comes out, they're done legally, professionally. Maybe that's why the threats started." A faint noise interrupted them, a car door slamming outside. Daniel peeked through the curtains. A black sedan idled across the street, tinted windows reflecting nothing. "Do you know that car?" she asked. He shook his head. "No." It drove off slowly, tires hissing against the rain. Lauren exhaled. "Maybe coincidence. Or maybe a warning," Daniel murmured. That evening, she returned home to find the front door slightly ajar. Her pulse spiked. She pushed it open cautiously. The lights were off. The house smelled faintly of Ethan's cologne, sharp, synthetic, intrusive. "Ethan," she called. No answer. Her living room looked untouched, except for one thing, a single photograph from their wedding album, face down on the floor, the glass cracked cleanly across the middle. Her hands shook as she picked it up. Then she saw it, a note tucked beneath the frame, written in his handwriting, "Stop talking to him." The words crawled under her skin. She locked the door, double-checked the windows, then sank onto the couch. For the first time, she realized she might actually be in danger. The next day, she met Daniel again, this time at a cafe crowded enough to feel safe. He looked exhausted. "We can't keep this to ourselves," he said. "If they're laundering money, the company deserves to know. We can go to HR or the police." Lauren hesitated. "If we do that, he'll know it's me." "He already does." She fell silent. The clinking of cups and chatter filled the pause between them. "I'm not doing this for revenge," she said finally. "I just want it to stop." "Then we expose them," Daniel said, "together." They spent the next week quietly compiling evidence, screenshots, email trails, transaction records. Daniel's technical background became their weapon. He traced digital signatures, timestamps, even VPN logs that tied Ethan's credentials to the fake accounts. Every discovery felt like a tiny victory, but also like stepping closer to a precipice. On Thursday, Daniel messaged, "I have everything, one more file and we're done." Lauren replied, "Be careful." That night, thunder cracked over Atlanta like the sky itself was warning them. Friday morning, Lauren arrived at school early. The rain had stopped, leaving the world heavy with fog. As she pulled into the parking lot, her phone buzzed again, an unknown number. "You think you're safe because you're quiet? You're not." Her hands went cold. She deleted the message instantly but couldn't shake the weight of it. By noon, Daniel hadn't answered her texts. By 2 p.m., his number went straight to voicemail. A pit formed in her stomach. When the final bell rang, she drove straight to his house. The curtains were drawn. His car was still there. She knocked. No response. Her heart hammered as she tried the door locked. A neighbor stepped out from across the street. "You looking for Daniel?" "Yes. Have you seen him today?" The woman shook her head. "No, but there was some kind of commotion early this morning. Police, maybe?" Unmarked cars. They left after a while. Lauren's mind spun. She thanked the woman and walked back to her car, rain starting again, soft and relentless. She gripped the steering wheel, staring at Daniel's house. "Please, don't let this be what I think it is." That night, the news confirmed it. 2 employees of Meridian Dynamics were under internal investigation for financial misconduct, names withheld, pending verification. Ethan's company. Lauren sat on the couch, the TV light flickering across her face. Her phone rang, Ethan's name. She answered without speaking. His voice was low, shaking with restrained fury. "You think you're clever, don't you?" She said nothing. "You and that guy, you don't know what you're getting into." "Then tell me," she said calmly. "What am I getting into?" Silence. Then a click. He hung up. Lauren stared at the phone, her pulse racing. Outside, lightning flared again, illuminating her reflection in the window, pale, composed, unblinking. 2 days later, Ethan showed up at her apartment. He looked nothing like the man she'd once loved, his tie loose, eyes bloodshot, the confidence gone. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered slowly, glancing around like a stranger. You've been talking to Daniel Hawthorne. Yes. You shouldn't. Why not? Because he's using you, Ethan snapped. He wants to drag everyone down with him. You don't know what he's capable of. Lauren folded her arms. Funny. That's what people used to say about you. He flinched, anger flashing across his face. You think you're safe now that you're playing detective? You're not. You've made enemies you don't even see. Then maybe I'll turn on the light, she said quietly. He stared at her, jaw tightening. Then, without another word, he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. She waited until his footsteps vanished before letting her knees give way. The silence that followed was deafening. The next morning, Lauren went to work as usual, refusing to let fear dictate her routine. But all day, a shadow followed her glances from coworkers, whispered gossip. Someone had leaked the investigation. By afternoon, Ethan's name was trending locally. She didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She just felt the strange calm of a storm's eye. Her students laughed in the hallway, oblivious. Life, she realized, never pauses for tragedy, it just moves around it. At dusk, she returned home. A white envelope was wedged under her door, no name, no return address. Inside was a single photograph, a shot of her and Daniel sitting together in Centennial Park, mid-conversation. Across the bottom, written in red marker, "Next time, talk louder." Lauren's fingers went numb. The photo slipped from her hand. Her phone buzzed again, an email notification from an unfamiliar address, centennialtruth@protonmail.com. Subject, final file. Her breath caught. It was from Daniel. The timestamp was hours before he'd disappeared. She clicked. A drive link opened folders, spreadsheets, transaction records all the evidence. At the bottom, a single message. If anything happens, give this to the police. Don't trust anyone from Meridian. Not even their lawyers. Her vision blurred. She whispered, "Daniel, what did you do?" Thunder rolled outside again, shaking the windows. She backed away from the screen, suddenly aware of how alone she was and how quiet the hallway had become. A faint sound came from the door, not knocking, but something sliding under it. Another envelope. Her heart thudded. She approached carefully, every instinct screaming. Inside was a single key plain, unmarked, and a folded note. 2 words. Storage 12. Morning came gray and silent, the kind of stillness that hides something beneath it. Lauren ha. It looked ordinary small. Storage 12. Daniel's last message had been brief, deliberate. She'd read it so many times the words were burned into her mind. If anything happens, use the key. She made coffee, but it tasted metallic. Her nerves were too sharp for anything warm. She stared at her reflection in the darkened window, tired ESA. By 9 a.m., she'd decided. She wasn't going to the police yet, not until she saw what Daniel had left. The self-storage facility sat on the edge of the industrial district, surrounded by rusted fences and rows of corrugated metal doors painted dull blue. A sign at the entrance read, "Met." Lauren parked a block away. She scanned T. Inside the office, a young clerk barely looked up from his phone. "Morning. Unit number? 12. SHH. She. He nodded. Down the left hall, the hallway smelled faintly of oil and dust. Metal doors lined both sides, each marked with black numbers. Her footsteps echoed in the emptiness. When she found Unit 12, her hand trembled as she slid the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, almost too smoothly, as if someone had oiled it recently. The door creaked upward, groaning like a reluctant secret. Inside, darkness. She switched on the flashlight from her phone. A small, windowless room appeared, stacks of file boxes, a single chair, and a folding table covered in papers. Her throat tightened. "Daniel," she whispered, though she knew he wouldn't answer. She stepped inside, heart pounding, and closed the door behind her. The first box she opened contained printouts, bank statements, wire transfers, and company memos stamped with Meridian Dynamics. She skimmed line after line, recognizing Ethan's name next to expense approvals, then Amanda's initials on vendor contracts. The numbers didn't lie. Over $450,000 had been siphoned through a dummy firm called AC Development Partners, created 6 months after Ethan's promotion. Daniel had highlighted parts of the documents, underlined names, drawn arrows connecting figures. At the top of one page, in shaky handwriting, he'd written, "Not just them, someone higher." Lauren froze. Her eyes darted to the folders beneath each labeled by month. One caught her attention, July Confidential. She opened it. Inside was a printed email chain between Ethan, Amanda, and someone identified only as RM. The messages were coded but unmistakable. Funds transferred to the internal account. The board won't notice until Q4. Keep receipts minimal. If questioned, divert to marketing. Understood. Lauren doesn't suspect a thing. Her breath hitched. They used her name. For a moment, she couldn't move. Her hands shook, paper edges cutting into her fingers. She sank into the chair, staring at the pages as if they might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. Ethan hadn't just betrayed her emotionally, he'd used her job, her stability, as cover. Many of the false transactions had her school email address copied on them as community outreach support. She was their alibi. Her stomach twisted. "You coward," she whispered. A sound broke the silence, a faint metallic click outside the door. She froze, holding her breath. Nothing. Only the hum of a faraway compressor. Still, she locked the unit from the inside and turned off her flashlight. The darkness pressed close around her. Her phone buzzed softly. A new message from an unknown number. "You shouldn't be there." Her chest tightened. She shut off the screen and waited. A few seconds later, footsteps echoed in the hallway, slow, deliberate. They stopped right outside her door. Lauren's pulse roared in her ears. She clutched her phone, ready to call 911, but then silence. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps retreated. She waited 5 minutes before unlocking the door and stepping out. The hallway was empty. A security camera blinked red above the corner. She looked up at it, meeting the tiny lens. "Good," she whispered. "Watch me." Back in her car, she sat shaking. The folder sat on the passenger seat, sealed tight. Her mind raced through possibilities. Who was RM? How deep did this go? Why had Daniel been silenced? She drove to a small diner on the edge of town and ordered tea she didn't touch. With trembling hands, she spread the documents across the booth. Names, dates, transfers, all there. Enough to end careers, maybe even send people to prison. Then she saw another note tucked between the files, a sticky tab marked Video Evidence. Her heart jumped. She found a small USB drive taped to the back of one folder. Daniel had labeled it in pen, Meridian Conf 5 MP4. She plugged it into her laptop, glancing over her shoulder as if the walls might be listening. The video was grainy but clear enough, a boardroom meeting recorded secretly from a corner angle. Ethan sat at the table beside Amanda. Across from them, a man in his 60s, expensive suit, silver tie, face partially turned from the camera. "Keep the numbers clean," the man said. "If the board asks questions, you divert them to education donations. The Mitchell name carries credibility." Lauren's blood ran cold. Ethan smiled in the video, her husband smiling, and replied, "Lauren handles most of the school donations. She won't notice." The man nodded. "Good, we need to move fast before the quarter closes." The file ended abruptly. Lauren shut the laptop, breathing hard. Her hands were shaking so violently she nearly dropped it. She whispered to herself, "They used me." The diner doorbell jingled. She flinched, looking up. A tall man in a dark raincoat walked in, scanning the room before sitting at the counter. He ordered coffee, didn't look her way, but she noticed the glint of a black earpiece beneath his hair. She gathered the papers quickly, heart hammering. Outside, the air felt heavier than before. She drove straight to the only person she could trust, her sister, Emily, who lived 15 minutes away in Grant Park. Emily opened the door in sweats, hair tied up, eyes widening when she saw Lauren's face. "What happened? You look..." "Don't ask," Lauren said, pushing past her into the living room. "Just let me stay for a while." Emily frowned but nodded. "Of course." Lauren spread the documents across the coffee table. "Do you remember Ethan's company, Meridian Dynamics?" Emily blinked. "Yeah, the one that made him work 80 hours a week? They're stealing money, and I have proof." Emily's jaw dropped. "Lauren, are you serious?" Lauren nodded, voice steady. "Serious enough that someone's following me." Emily sat back slowly, processing. Then you need to go to the police. Lauren hesitated. If I do that, they'll spin it. They'll say I helped him. My name's all over their donations. I need to clean that up first, prove I didn't know. Emily took her hand. Then we'll figure it out, but you can't do this alone. That night, Lauren stored the files and the USB in a sealed envelope and hid it under Emily's floorboard beneath a loose panel they'd once used as kids to hide diaries. She kept only one page with her, the email mentioning RM. Before sleeping, she read it again, the initials circling in her mind. Who are you, RM? The next morning, Emily shook her awake. Lauren, turn on the news. Her heart pounded as she grabbed the remote. Breaking news. Meridian Dynamics CFO Robert Madsen, under investigation for embezzlement. Lauren froze. RM. The anchor continued. An anonymous source has leaked internal documents revealing falsified charity reports and offshore transfers. Authorities are currently... Lauren muted the TV, stunned. Someone else had released the evidence. But how? Her laptop chimed. A new email from the same anonymous account as before, centennialtruth@protonmail.com. Subject: You're not the only one looking. No message, only an attachment, a single photo of Daniel. He was standing in front of a gray building, a hospital, holding a file folder. The timestamp was 2 days ago. Lauren's breath caught. He's alive. She grabbed her coat, ignoring Emily's protests, and ran to her car. The email's metadata listed the hospital, Northside Medical Center. Traffic blurred around her as she sped through the streets, the city flashing by in gray streaks. When she arrived, the receptionist checked the registry. Daniel Hawthorne? She repeated. Yes, he was admitted briefly yesterday, checked out early this morning. Did he say where he was going? The woman shook her head. No, but he left this at the desk, said someone might come looking. She handed Lauren a small envelope. Inside was a single note, written in Daniel's sharp handwriting. They know everything, don't go home. Lauren's knees weakened. She gripped the counter for balance. The receptionist frowned. Ma'am, are you okay? Lauren forced a nod. I will be. She turned and walked out into the glaring sunlight, the noise of the city crashing back in. The warehouse stood alone at the edge of the Chattahoochee Industrial Park, half swallowed by weeds in time. Rust streaked the metal siding. The faded Meridian Dynamics logo still clung to the wall like an echo of something that once mattered. Lauren parked 2 blocks away and sat motionless for several minutes, the engine humming low. Her phone lay face down on the passenger seat, screen dark. Every instinct told her not to go inside. But curiosity, or maybe courage, had carried her this far. At exactly 8:55 p.m., she stepped out into the thick Georgia night. The air smelled of rain and motor oil. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled lazily over the river. The front gate hung crooked on one hinge. She slipped through the gap and followed the cracked asphalt toward the side door. A single bulb flickered above it, bathing the entrance in a weak orange light. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Her footsteps echoed off concrete. Rows of abandoned machinery loomed like sleeping giants, covered in dust and shadows. At the far end, a faint glow broke the darkness, a desk lamp, placed on a metal table. Next to it stood a man in a dark suit, hands resting on the edge of the table. Robert Madsen. He looked older than in the video, thinner, grayer, his face carved by sleeplessness, but his posture still carried the quiet confidence of someone used to control. Lauren stopped a few yards away. You wanted to talk, she said. He nodded once. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Mitchell. Her pulse quickened. You know my name. I know more than that, he said softly. Sit, please. She hesitated, then approached slowly. The table between them held 2 coffee cups, a folder, and a small voice recorder. I don't drink anything I didn't pour myself, she said. A faint smile crossed his lips. Smart, I respect that. She stayed standing. Madsen sighed, folding his hands. You've been very busy, Lauren, digging into things that were never meant to see daylight. Daniel sent me, she replied. He said you were part of it. His expression didn't change. He reached into the folder and slid a sheet across the table. You've seen this before, I think. Lauren looked down. It was the same ledger Daniel had shown her, the one tracing false donations through her name. You used me, she said quietly. We used a name that carried integrity, Madsen corrected. There's a difference. Her jaw tightened. That's not integrity, that's theft. It started as a counting sleight of hand, he said. Temporary adjustments to keep Meridian afloat during a bad quarter. Ethan and Amanda took it further. They turned a cover-up into a cash cow. Lauren stared at him. And you let them? I had no choice, Madsen said. I was already too deep. I built the system they corrupted. He reached for his cup, but didn't drink. Daniel found the trail months ago. He confronted me privately, asked for time to expose Ethan without destroying the company. He was careful. What happened to him? She asked. Madsen hesitated. He vanished before he could finish his work. You mean someone made him vanish? He met her gaze. Let's just say people in Meridian have more to lose than reputations. The echo of his words filled the empty space like a warning bell. Lauren crossed her arms. Then why contact me? Why now? Madsen exhaled slowly. Because the story's already out, but it's incomplete. Someone leaked partial files. If the authorities only see Ethan and Amanda, they'll close the case and I'll walk free. But that means Daniel died for nothing. Her eyes narrowed. You want me to finish what he started? He nodded. You're the only one who can. You have access to the full archive, the one he left in your care. She took a step back. You expect me to hand over evidence to a man who admits he orchestrated fraud? I expect you to use it, he said, to make sure the truth isn't edited. By you? By them. He reached into his pocket and tossed a flash drive onto the table. That's everything on Ethan. Emails, accounts, call logs enough to bury him. Lauren stared at the small object glinting under the lamp. What's the catch? Madsen smiled faintly. No catch. Just balance. If I fall, he falls. If I burn, so does he. And maybe then the company can survive. Lauren's heartbeat quickened. The logic was cold but familiar, the language of control, of men who treated morality like currency. I'm not your accomplice, she said. No, he replied. You're my insurance policy. Lightning flared outside, momentarily filling the warehouse with harsh white light. Lauren's pulse raced. Why should I believe anything you say? Because, he said, leaning forward, you've already seen what they're capable of. You think those threats came from me? She froze. You didn't send them? He shook his head. If I wanted you silenced, you wouldn't be standing here. The messages came from someone else. Who? He hesitated. Someone inside Meridian's security division, a fixer Ethan hired after Daniel started digging. He called him Sloan. No first name, no record, just a shadow. Lauren swallowed hard. And you think he's watching me now? I don't think, Madsen said. I know. The lamp flickered, shadows stretching across his face. Lauren stepped closer. Tell me where Daniel is. He looked genuinely weary. If I knew, I'd tell you. Last I heard, he was alive. He'd sent me one last file, a failsafe. It's encrypted. Only your name unlocks it. My name? He nodded. You were his trust point. Her throat tightened. Daniel had always believed she was the only person without a hidden agenda. That belief now terrified her. Where's the file? She asked. On the drive I just gave you, Madsen said. But listen to me, if you open it, everything will change. For you, for me, for what's left of Meridian. She pocketed the drive. Then I guess change is overdue. For a long moment, neither spoke. The storm outside grew louder, rain tapping against the roof like restless fingers. Finally, Madsen said, You remind me of someone I used to know. Before all this. Another woman you lied to. He chuckled softly. Another person who believed the truth mattered. Lauren looked toward the doorway. Is this the part where you ask me to forgive you? No, he said. This is the part where I warn you. When this goes public, Meridian won't just fall. People will make sure it stays buried, and that you're buried with it. I'm already living with ghosts, she said. He studied her face, something like respect flickering in his eyes. Then you might just survive this. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. One last thing, he said. Ethan isn't running, he's planning. She froze. Planning what? Damage control. He's desperate. If he can't erase the evidence, he'll erase the witnesses. Me. And Daniel, if he's still alive. Lauren's breath quickened. How do you know? Madsen nodded toward the corner. A small security monitor blinked to life, showing 4 camera feeds from outside the warehouse. On one of them, A black sedan idled under a flickering streetlight. Her heart stopped. "That's him," she whispered. Madsen's voice was calm but urgent. "Go out the back, there's a service door, I'll stall them." "Why help me?" she demanded. "Because I owe Daniel, and because I'm tired of surviving on silence." She hesitated only a second before running. The back corridor smelled of rust and damp concrete. A red exit sign glowed faintly above a narrow door. Behind her, she heard voices low, male, urgent. Madsen's tone cutting through once before being drowned out. She burst outside into rain and sprinted toward the side street, shoes splashing through puddles. Lightning split the sky. In the distance, she heard tires screech. She didn't look back. By the time she reached her car, she was soaked, shaking. Her reflection in the mirror looked like someone else's eyes, fierce, jaw set. She turned the key, engine roaring to life. For a moment, she sat gripping the wheel, chest heaving. Then she looked down at the flash drive in her pocket. Daniel's file. Her name. The truth. She whispered, "You trusted me for a reason." She drove straight to Emily's house, arriving just before midnight. Her sister met her at the door, worry written across her face. "What happened?" "Later," Lauren said, stepping inside. "Lock every door." Emily obeyed without question. They sat in the kitchen, the storm outside fading into a dull hiss. Lauren placed the flash drive on the table. "This is it. Everything. Ethan, Madsen, the company, all of it." Emily stared. "Are you going to open it?" Lauren hesitated. "Daniel said it would change everything." "Do you trust him?" "I did, once." She slid the drive into her laptop. A password prompt appeared on screen. "Enter authorization, L. Mitchell." She typed her name. The cursor blinked once, then the screen went black. Emily gasped. "Did it crash?" "No," Lauren whispered. "It's loading." A single file appeared. Confession. She opened it. The document began with Daniel's voice, calm, recorded. "If you're hearing this, I'm gone. Meridian's corruption runs deeper than we thought. Ethan isn't just stealing money, he's laundering it through offshore accounts linked to a defense contractor. The FBI is closing in, but there's someone inside feeding them false leads. His name is..." The recording cut off abruptly. Lauren stared at the screen, her pulse hammering. "No, no, no, no." She rewound. The audio glitched in the same place. Emily leaned in. "Did he say a name?" Lauren froze the waveform, enhancing the static. Beneath the distortion, faintly, came 2 syllables. It wasn't a name. It was a word. Warehouse. The sound of the gunshot replayed in Lauren's mind like a stuck record. Static. A flash of white. Then nothing. The video had vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving the room drenched in silence. The faint hum of her laptop was the only thing that proved the world was still moving. Emily's voice broke through, trembling. "Lauren, what did we just see?" Lauren didn't answer. She was still staring at the black screen, her reflection fractured by faint lines of static. Her pulse beat so fast she could feel it behind her eyes. Madsen was dead. The one man who had come forward with a semblance of truth had been silenced minutes after meeting her. "Someone knew," she whispered. "They knew I was there." Emily paced the kitchen, hugging her arms. "You need to call the police." Lauren shook her head sharply. "No, not yet. If I go to the police now, they'll think I was involved. My name's on half those files, remember?" "But whoever did that, they'll be watching," Lauren interrupted, voice steady but low. "If I panic, I'll lead them straight here." She closed the laptop and unplugged the flash drive, holding it tightly. It felt heavier now, as if carrying more than data, like a loaded secret. An hour later, the rain had stopped, but the night pressed in heavier than before. Emily had fallen asleep on the couch, exhaustion winning over fear. Lauren stood by the window, staring at the street below. A car passed slowly, headlights sweeping across the blinds. She tensed until it turned the corner and disappeared. She'd lived enough of her life trusting people, Ethan, her marriage, her job, the illusion of order. But this was different. This was survival. She sat back at the table and reopened the laptop. The screen flickered on, showing Daniel's corrupted audio file. She replayed it, isolating the final second. "The FBI, false leads, his name is..." Static swallowed the rest. Lauren leaned closer, adjusting the equalizer. Beneath the distortion, a faint sound, a soft background hum repeated rhythmically. She knew that sound. It was the low mechanical buzz of an air vent, industrial grade. The same kind she'd heard at the warehouse. Her stomach twisted. Daniel hadn't been telling her to go to a warehouse. He'd been telling her that his final recording had been made there. Madsen's meeting hadn't been a trap. It had been Daniel's breadcrumb. The realization burned through her exhaustion. If Daniel had left the file encrypted with her name, he must have known she'd come this far, maybe even predicted it. She opened the drives folder again. Buried beneath the visible files was a small hidden archive marked Sys, Restore. Her pulse quickened. She opened it. Inside, 2 files. One named Transfers, Final, CSV, and another labeled Voice Log 8. The audio log began mid-sentence. Daniel's voice, low, deliberate. If you find this, it means Meridian has cut me off. They'll try to blame Ethan and Amanda. Don't believe it. There's a handler above them, someone pulling the strings. RM. Thought he was protecting the company. He was protecting someone else. Lauren paused the file, heart hammering. Someone else? She murmured. She scrolled to the next line of the log. The handler's initials appear in offshore routing numbers, cross-reference with Meridian's internal employee IDs. You'll see the pattern. The same name appears on every approval form. The recording ended abruptly, as if sliced mid-breath. Lauren's hands trembled. She opened the spreadsheet. Dozens of transactions scrolled across the screen, wire transfers to shell companies, all authorized by Ethan Mitchell. Her husband's name filled the column. Not once, not twice, over 50 times. Her breath hitched. He wasn't following orders, he was the handler. All the pieces fell into place, the fake vendors, the offshore accounts, the donations in her name. Ethan had orchestrated the entire scheme. Madsen, Amanda, even Daniel all had been moving inside his circle. And she'd been the perfect alibi. Lauren pressed her hand against her mouth, fighting the rising nausea. Every anniversary dinner, every smile, every I love you. All scripted. All performed by a man who'd used her signature to commit federal crimes. By sunrise, Lauren was still awake, the screen's glow painting her face pale. Emily stirred on the couch. "What time is it?" she murmured. "Almost 6, Lauren said quietly. "I know who did it." Emily blinked, disoriented. "Did what?" "Everything." Lauren turned the laptop toward her, scrolling through Ethan's name again and again. He didn't just cheat or lie, he built this. Every transfer goes through him. Emily rubbed her temples. "Jesus, you have to go to the authorities." Lauren nodded slowly. "I will, but not yet. Not until I know how deep it goes." "Lauren," she looked at her sister, eyes hard. "If I go now, they'll bury it. He'll bury it. I need undeniable proof, something they can't erase." Emily's voice softened. "You're not thinking straight. You can't take on a corporation alone." "I'm not," Lauren said. "Daniel's files prove someone inside was feeding false leads to the FBI. That means there's at least one agent I can't trust. But if I find the one Daniel trusted..." Emily frowned. "You think he had a contact?" Lauren nodded. "He called him once, I remember. He mentioned a friend in compliance. Someone named Mark, who owed him a favor." 2 hours later, Lauren was parked outside Meridian's downtown office tower. The morning rush had begun. Employees moved in and out with coffee cups and nervous glances. She watched them from the car, scanning faces. Every movement felt deliberate, coded. Inside that building was the man who had destroyed her marriage, her name, her safety, and he still wore a badge that said Vice President, Finance. Her phone buzzed an email from an unknown address. "We know what you took from Storage 12. Stop before you join Madsen." Her fingers tightened around the phone until her knuckles went white. She deleted the message, started the engine, and drove away. She met Mark Carter that afternoon in a cafe near Piedmont Park, Neutral Territory. He was in his late 30s, suit wrinkled, eyes wary. "Daniel told me if anything happened, you'd come," he said quietly. I didn't believe him. Lauren set the flash drive on the table. "You were in compliance. You saw the transfers?" He nodded. "Enough to get me fired if I talked, but I've been keeping my own records. Ethan's been moving money through charities that don't exist. The board never noticed the donations looked clean on paper." Lauren leaned closer. He's the handler, isn't he? Mark hesitated. Yes, but he wasn't alone. Someone higher in federal oversight approved those accounts. She froze. You mean? The FBI task force investigating Meridian. Someone inside is covering for him. Lauren's pulse spiked. That's why Daniel said not to go to the police. Mark glanced around, lowering his voice. I can get you the full audit trail, but if you want it admissible in court, you'll need to expose him publicly first before he paints you as an accomplice. How? He slid a small business card across the table. Channel 7 News, investigative segment. The reporter's name is Rachel Cruz. She's been chasing Meridian for months. Give her what you have. She'll know what to do. Lauren nodded, slipping the card into her pocket. Thank you. Mark gave a faint, humorless smile. Don't thank me. Just make sure he doesn't get away with it. That night, Lauren drove through the city with the flash drive in her lap. Every streetlight flickered like a warning. She passed familiar places, the restaurant where she and Ethan had celebrated promotions, the park where their kids had played. Every corner felt like an illusion crumbling. At a red light, her phone rang. Ethan. Her heart lurched. She hesitated, then answered. Lauren, his voice came, calm but cold. We need to talk. There's nothing left to say, she replied. I think there is, he said. You've been busy. People are nervous. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me? She said bitterly. From what, the truth? From consequences, he said. If you go public, they won't see a whistleblower. They'll see a co-conspirator. Your name's on those transfers too. I didn't know. No one will care. The narrative's already written. Her hands trembled on the wheel. You're bluffing. Check your inbox, he said. The line went dead. She opened her email at the next stoplight. Attached was a PDF labeled IRS Audit Inquiry. Mitchell L. Her stomach dropped. It was an official-looking report linking her name to the fraudulent donations. He'd framed her. By the time she reached Emily's apartment, her mind was racing. If the audit reached the public first, her credibility would be gone, and so would the story. She dropped the keys on the counter, pacing the kitchen. Emily appeared from the hallway, rubbing her eyes. What's wrong? He's moving first, Lauren said. He's setting me up. Emily looked at her, fear in her eyes. Then go to the reporter, tonight. Lauren nodded, grabbing her coat. I will, but I need to make one stop first. Where? To get something Ethan doesn't know I have. The night air was cold as she drove to her old house, the place she'd shared with Ethan before everything fell apart. It was quiet, dark, almost lifeless. She parked down the street and approached on foot. The spare key was still under the stone rabbit by the porch, just as it had been for years. Inside, the house smelled like memory furniture she'd picked, books she'd read aloud to their children. But now it felt hollow, like walking through a museum of a life that never belonged to her. In the study, she opened the bottom drawer of Ethan's desk. Her hands found what she was looking for, a black notebook embossed with gold letters. Inside were handwritten notes, his codes, his transfer confirmations, lists of offshore accounts, proof that would tie everything directly to him. She stuffed it into her bag and turned to leave, but froze. A faint beep echoed from the hallway. The alarm system. He'd changed the code. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Welcome home. Her breath caught. Outside, headlights flared across the window, bright, blinding, stopping directly in front of the house. She backed away slowly, pulse pounding. The sound of the gunshot replayed in Lauren's mind like a stuck record. Static. A flash of white. Then nothing. The video had vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving the room drenched in silence. The faint hum of her laptop was the only thing that proved the world was still moving. Emily's voice broke through, trembling. Lauren, what did we just see? Lauren didn't answer. She was still staring at the black screen, her reflection fractured by faint lines of static. Her pulse beat so fast she could feel it behind her eyes. Madsen was dead. The one man who had come forward with a semblance of truth had been silenced minutes after meeting her. Someone knew, she whispered. They knew I was there. Emily paced the kitchen, hugging her arms. You need to call the police. Lauren shook her head sharply. No, not yet. If I go to the police now, they'll think I was involved. My name's on half those files, remember? But whoever did that, they'll be watching. Lauren interrupted, voice steady but low. If I panic, I'll lead them straight here. She closed the laptop and unplugged the flash drive, holding it tightly. It felt heavier now, as if carrying more than data, like a loaded secret. An hour later, the rain had stopped, but the night pressed in heavier than before. Emily had fallen asleep on the couch, exhaustion winning over fear. Lauren stood by the window, staring at the street below. A car passed slowly, headlights sweeping across the blinds. She tensed until it turned the corner and disappeared. She'd lived enough of her life trusting people: Ethan, her marriage, her job, the illusion of order. But this was different. This was survival. She sat back at the table and reopened the laptop. The screen flickered on, showing Daniel's corrupted audio file. She replayed it, isolating the final second. The FBI, false leads, his name is... Static swallowed the rest. Lauren leaned closer, adjusting the equalizer. Beneath the distortion, a faint sound, a soft background hum repeated rhythmically. She knew that sound. It was the low mechanical buzz of an air vent, industrial grade. The same kind she'd heard at the warehouse. Her stomach twisted. Daniel hadn't been telling her to go to a warehouse. He'd been telling her that his final recording had been made there. Madsen's meeting hadn't been a trap. It had been Daniel's breadcrumb. The realization burned through her exhaustion. If Daniel had left the file encrypted with her name, he must have known she'd come this far, maybe even predicted it. She opened the drive's folder again. Buried beneath the visible files was a small hidden archive marked SYS, Restore. Her pulse quickened. She opened it. Inside, 2 files. One named Transfers, Final, CSV, and another labeled Voice Log 8. The audio log began mid-sentence. Daniel's voice, low, deliberate. If you find this, it means Meridian has cut me off. They'll try to blame Ethan and Amanda. Don't believe it. There's a handler above them, someone pulling the strings. RM thought he was protecting the company. He was protecting someone else. Lauren paused the file, heart hammering. Someone else? She murmured. She scrolled to the next line of the log. The handler's initials appear in offshore routing numbers, cross-reference with Meridian's internal employee IDs. You'll see the pattern. The same name appears on every approval form. The recording ended abruptly, as if sliced mid-breath. Lauren's hands trembled. She opened the spreadsheet. Dozens of transactions scrolled across the screen: wire transfers to shell companies, all authorized by Ethan Mitchell. Her husband's name filled the column. Not once, not twice. Over 50 times. Her breath hitched. He wasn't following orders. He was the handler. All the pieces fell into place: the fake vendors, the offshore accounts, the donations in her name. Ethan had orchestrated the entire scheme. Madsen, Amanda, even Daniel, all had been moving inside his circle. And she'd been the perfect alibi. Lauren pressed her hand against her mouth, fighting the rising nausea. Every anniversary dinner, every smile, every I love you. All scripted, all performed by a man who'd used her signature to commit federal crimes. By sunrise, Lauren was still awake, the screen's glow painting her face pale. Emily stirred on the couch. "What time is it?" she murmured. "Almost 6, Lauren said quietly. "I know who did it." Emily blinked, disoriented. "Did what?" "Everything." Lauren turned the laptop toward her, scrolling through Ethan's name again and again. He didn't just cheat or lie. He built this. Every transfer goes through him. Emily rubbed her temples. "Jesus. You have to go to the authorities." Lauren nodded slowly. "I will, but not yet. Not until I know how deep it goes." "Lauren." She looked at her sister, eyes hard. "If I go now, they'll bury it. He'll bury it. I need undeniable proof, something they can't erase." Emily's voice softened. "You're not thinking straight. You can't take on a corporation alone." "I'm not," Lauren said. "Daniel's files prove someone inside was feeding false leads to the FBI. That means there's at least one agent I can't trust. But if I find the one Daniel trusted..." Emily frowned. "You think he had a contact?" Lauren nodded. "He called him once, I remember. He mentioned a friend in compliance. Someone named Mark who owed him a favor." 2 hours later, Lauren was parked outside Meridian's downtown office tower. The morning rush had begun. Employees moved in and out with coffee cups and nervous glances. She watched them from the car, scanning faces. Every movement felt deliberate, coded. Inside that building was the man who had destroyed her marriage, her name, her safety, and he still wore a badge that said Vice President Finance. Her phone buzzed an email from an unknown address. "We know what you took from storage 12. Stop before you join Madsen." Her fingers tightened around the phone until her knuckles went white. She deleted the message, started the engine, and drove away. She met Mark Carter that afternoon in a cafe near Piedmont Park, Neutral Territory. He was in his late 30s, suit wrinkled, eyes wary. "Daniel told me if anything happened, you'd come," he said quietly. I didn't believe him. Lauren set the flash drive on the table. "You were in compliance. You saw the transfers?" He nodded. "Enough to get me fired if I talked, but I've been keeping my own records. Ethan's been moving money through charities that don't exist." The board never noticed the donations looked clean on paper. Lauren leaned closer. "He's the handler, isn't he?" Mark hesitated. "Yes, but he wasn't alone. Someone higher in federal oversight approved those accounts." She froze. "You mean?" "The FBI task force investigating Meridian. Someone inside is covering for him." Lauren's pulse spiked. "That's why Daniel said not to go to the police." Mark glanced around, lowering his voice. "I can get you the full audit trail, but if you want it admissible in court, you'll need to expose him publicly first before he paints you as an accomplice." "How?" He slid a small business card across the table. "Channel 7 News. Investigative segment. The reporter's name is Rachel Cruz. She's been chasing Meridian for months. Give her what you have, she'll know what to do." Lauren nodded, slipping the card into her pocket. "Thank you." Mark gave a faint, humorless smile. "Don't thank me. Just make sure he doesn't get away with it." That night, Lauren drove through the city with the flash drive in her lap. Every streetlight flickered like a warning. She passed familiar places, the restaurant where she and Ethan had celebrated promotions, the park where their kids had played. Every corner felt like an illusion crumbling. At a red light, her phone rang. Ethan. Her heart lurched. She hesitated, then answered. "Lauren," his voice came, calm but cold. "We need to talk." "There's nothing left to say," she replied. "I think there is," he said. "You've been busy. People are nervous. I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me?" she said bitterly. "From what? The truth?" "From consequences," he said. "If you go public, they won't see a whistleblower. They'll see a co-conspirator. Your name's on those transfers too." "I didn't know." "No one will care. The narrative's already written." Her hands trembled on the wheel. "You're bluffing." "Check your inbox," he said. The line went dead. She opened her email at the next stoplight. Attached was a PDF labeled IRS Audit Inquiry, Mitchell, L. Her stomach dropped. It was an official-looking report linking her name to the fraudulent donations. He'd framed her. By the time she reached Emily's apartment, her mind was racing. If the audit reached the public first, her credibility would be gone, and so would the story. She dropped the keys on the counter, pacing the kitchen. Emily appeared from the hallway, rubbing her eyes. "What's wrong?" "He's moving first," Lauren said. "He's setting me up." Emily looked at her, fear in her eyes. "Then go to the reporter tonight." Lauren nodded, grabbing her coat. "I will, but I need to make one stop first." "Where?" "To get something Ethan doesn't know I have." The night air was cold as she drove to her old house, the place she'd shared with Ethan before everything fell apart. It was quiet, dark, almost lifeless. She parked down the street and approached on foot. The spare key was still under the stone rabbit by the porch, just as it had been for years. Inside, the house smelled like memory furniture she'd picked, books she'd read aloud to their children. But now it felt hollow, like walking through a museum of a life that never belonged to her. In the study, she opened the bottom drawer of Ethan's desk. Her hands found what she was looking for, a black notebook embossed with gold letters. Inside were handwritten notes, his codes, his transfer confirmations, lists of offshore accounts, proof that would tie everything directly to him. She stuffed it into her bag and turned to leave but froze. A faint beep echoed from the hallway. The alarm system. He'd changed the code. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Welcome home." Her breath caught. Outside, headlights flared across the window, bright, blinding, stopping directly in front of the house. She backed away slowly, pulse pounding. Resolution. Transition. The sound of a car door slamming cut through the night. Footsteps on gravel. Lauren clutched the notebook to her chest and ran for the back door. The porch light flicked on automatically, spilling gold across the yard. A shadow crossed the glass. Ethan's voice came from outside, calm, too calm. "Lauren, we don't have to do this." She froze, heart hammering. He continued, "You don't understand what's at stake. You go to the press, you destroy everything, your name, our kid's future." She whispered through the door, "You already destroyed it." Silence, then a soft chuckle. "You always were brave. That's what made you useful." Her blood ran cold. He stepped closer to the window. The porch light caught his face expressionless, eyes flat. "Put the notebook down," he said quietly, "and maybe you'll walk out of here alive." Lauren's breath trembled, her back against the wall. She glanced toward the kitchen door, the only exit left. Outside, Ethan's shadow moved again. And then another voice, sharp and urgent, cutting through the tension. "Federal agents, step away from the door." Ethan turned, startled. Lauren's eyes widened. Through the front window, red and blue lights flashed across the lawn. For a single second, relief washed through her until she noticed the insignia on the agent's jacket. Meridian Security Division. Not police. Not FBI. Her relief turned to ice. The door handle began to turn. Transition to Chapter 8, The Exposure. Bạn đã nói, viết tiếp, chương 8, độ dài 1.800 từ, cuốn hút lập luận chặt chẽ theo cốt truyện, tạo chút mới mẻ, để khán giả có thể bình luận cuối video. ChatGPT đã nói, got it, here's Chapter 8, The Exposure, written in full cinematic, emotionally charged storytelling style, to 1,800 words. This final chapter closes the main arc of Lauren's story, the confrontation, the exposure, and the bittersweet liberation, while leaving just enough ambiguity for the audience to debate and comment. It blends tension, emotional reckoning, and a message about truth, trust, and rebirth. Chapter 8, The Exposure. The red and blue lights flickered across the front yard, painting the walls of the house in feverish color. Lauren's pulse thundered in her ears as the door handle turned again, deliberate, slow, certain. "Federal agents, step away from the door," the voice repeated. But she knew that tone. Too practiced, too perfect. These weren't law enforcement officers. They were Ethan's people. Her mind moved faster than her fear. She clutched the black notebook tighter against her chest, took one step back, and scanned the room. There, the side window, the same one her son had once used to sneak out during summer nights. Outside, she heard Ethan's voice bark something short, commanding. Then boots on the porch. She threw the window open, the wood groaning in protest, and climbed out into the wet grass just as the front door burst open behind her. "Lauren!" Ethan's voice cut through the storm. "Stop!" She ran. The night air hit her lungs like glass. Her shoes slipped on the mud as she tore through the backyard toward the tree line. Behind her, flashlights sliced through the dark. Shouts echoed, "This way, check the side." She didn't look back. The woods behind the Mitchell house were thick, overgrown, the same ones where they'd once hosted barbecues and let the kids chase fireflies. Now the branches clawed at her sleeves, like hands trying to hold her down. Her breath came in gasps, but she didn't stop until the lights were distant glimmers behind her. She crouched behind a fallen tree, clutching the notebook to her chest, trembling with adrenaline. Rain began to fall again, soft at first, then harder. For a long time, she just sat there, gasping, listening to her own heart. Then, slowly, the weight of what she held sank in. This was the last piece, the one Ethan didn't know she'd taken. Proof of every lie, every theft, every betrayal. Her name was in those pages too, but this time, it wasn't evidence of guilt, it was context. And context, she realized, was the only weapon truth ever needed. By dawn, she'd made her way to the edge of the neighborhood, where Emily was waiting in her car. Her sister's eyes went wide when she saw Lauren emerge from the trees, soaked and shivering. "Get in," Emily said, flinging the passenger door open. Lauren climbed in, teeth chattering, dropping the notebook onto her lap. "They came. Not police. Meridian's private agents." Emily's voice shook. "Jesus, Lauren. They're protecting him," she whispered. "They'll cover everything unless I go public. Right now." Emily hesitated. "Then do it. You still have the contact the reporter?" Lauren nodded weakly. "Rachel Cruz." Channel 7. She opened her phone with trembling fingers and dialed the number Mark had given her. 3 rings. 4. Channel Sept News Investigation Desk. Rachel Cruz, please. This is Rachel. The woman's voice was brisk, clipped the voice of someone used to hearing secrets. Lauren swallowed hard. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I have evidence about Meridian Dynamics internal fraud, money laundering, a murder cover-up, and I think they're coming for me. Silence. Then, where are you? Lauren looked out at the pale, trembling dawn, far enough to still have a choice. Then don't move, Rachel said. I'll send someone to get you, but you need to send me something proof this isn't paranoia. Lauren hesitated, then opened her bag and flipped through the notebook. She snapped photos, the account numbers, Ethan's handwriting, the offshore list. Then she sent them. Seconds later, Rachel replied, "This is real. I'm on my way." They met at a small gas station off the interstate. Rachel was younger than Lauren expected, sharp eyes, calm hands. She led them to a rented SUV and handed Lauren a blanket. "You did the right thing," she said softly, "but once we air this, there's no going back." Lauren nodded. There was never any going back. Rachel placed a recorder on the dashboard. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." For the next hour, Lauren spoke about the glove box, the affair, Daniel, Madsen, the threats, and the night before. Her voice cracked only once, when she said Ethan's name. Rachel listened without interrupting, only nodding occasionally, the recorder's red light steady as a heartbeat. When it ended, Rachel said, "You understand they'll come after you for this." "I'm already living with ghosts," Lauren replied. By the time the segment aired that night, the storm had rolled back over Atlanta. The Channel 7 logo spun on screen, followed by Rachel's steady voice. A high-level fraud scandal has surfaced within Meridian Dynamics, implicating executives in an offshore laundering scheme. Evidence obtained exclusively by Channel 7 includes internal documents, audio recordings, and eyewitness accounts pointing to Vice President Ethan Mitchell as a key orchestrator. Lauren sat on the couch at Emily's apartment, watching herself on the screen, her face blurred, her voice disguised. "I believed in him," the voice said. "I believed love meant trust. But sometimes love is the perfect cover for corruption." Emily squeezed her hand. "You did it." Lauren shook her head slowly. "Not yet." The camera cut to Ethan's photo, his corporate headshot, smiling confidently, then to Madsen's still image, then to Daniel's name, labeled missing since July. The anchor continued. The FBI has opened a full investigation following Channel 7's report. A company spokesperson declined to comment. For a few days, everything blurred: reporters outside, police inquiries, investigators knocking at all hours. Ethan vanished. His phone disconnected, his office cleared out overnight. Lauren gave her statement formally, surrendering the notebook and the flash drive. The agent who took them, an older man with tired eyes, said quietly, "You may have just saved a lot of people, Mrs. Mitchell." She didn't feel saved. She felt hollow, because beneath the noise of justice, the echo of Daniel's voice still haunted her. "If you find this, it means I'm gone. Gone. But not forgotten." A week later, Rachel called. "They found something." Lauren's pulse jumped. "What?" "A car. Abandoned near the river. The VIN matches Daniel Hawthorne's. There were signs he was alive, supplies, clothes, notes, but no body." Lauren closed her eyes, gripping the phone. "He's out there." Rachel hesitated. Maybe. Or maybe he left because he knew they'd come for anyone close to the truth. Lauren looked out the window at the city skyline, the lights flickering like distant stars. "Then I hope he keeps running," she whispered. Days turned into weeks. The story exploded nationwide. Meridian's stock collapsed. Federal agents raided multiple properties. Public sympathy poured in for Lauren, for Madsen, for the whistleblowers. But she avoided interviews. She didn't want fame, she wanted silence. She started teaching again part-time at a community center, far from downtown. Her students didn't know who she was. They just saw a woman with kind eyes and steady hands. At night, she walked by the river, the same one that had mirrored so many lies, and tried to believe that healing didn't have to be loud. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she received an envelope in her mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, the same black sedan from before, parked in front of an unfamiliar building. On the back, a handwritten message. You weren't supposed to win. Lauren's heart clenched. She turned the photo over again. The reflection in the sedan's window showed two silhouettes, one standing, one sitting. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Madsen. It was Daniel. Alive. The next morning, Rachel called again. Ethan's been caught, she said. They found him crossing into Florida under a false name. He's in custody now. Wire fraud, obstruction, conspiracy. He's facing 30 years. Lauren said nothing. You should feel relieved, Rachel added. You beat him. Lauren looked at the photograph again, Daniel's faint reflection, the words scrawled behind it. Her voice was quiet. Maybe, but someone else is still out there. Rachel frowned. What do you mean? Lauren's eyes lingered on the small print at the bottom corner of the photo numbers. Coordinates maybe. Because whoever took this wanted me to know. The air smelled like lightning before a storm, sharp, electric, waiting. Lauren crouched behind the kitchen counter, her heartbeat thudding against the notebook pressed to her chest. Outside, boots scraped against gravel. The voices were calm, professional, rehearsed. Sweep the perimeter. She's inside. Not police, not FBI. Meridian's private agents. She glanced toward the back door, still locked. The only open path was the window she'd come through, but now a flashlight beam cut across the grass too late. She had seconds, maybe less. From the front porch came a familiar voice, too soft, too controlled. Lauren, stop hiding. Ethan. His words dripped with exhaustion and authority. You're making things worse than they have to be. Lauren's throat tightened. You sent them after me? Don't make me the villain, he said. You stole confidential property. I'm trying to protect you before this spirals further. She almost laughed. Protect, after all this? She looked down at the notebook, the physical proof of his crimes, and did the only thing that made sense. She pulled her phone from her pocket, opened the camera app, and started snapping pictures of every page. The door shuddered under a heavy hit. Lauren! She didn't answer. Her fingers flew page after page until she heard the metallic crack of a lock giving way. She shoved the phone into her pocket, grabbed the notebook, and ran toward the back hallway. The next moment exploded in noise, the door breaking open, shouts filling the air, heavy boots hitting the hardwood. She threw open the laundry room window and slipped out just as a flashlight beam hit the wall behind her. Stop her! The night swallowed her. Rain poured hard and cold as she sprinted toward the woods. The sky flashed with lightning, brief and violent. She didn't care where she was going, only that she kept moving. Branches tore at her sleeves. Mud splashed up her legs. But the rhythm of her own breath drowned out everything else. For the first time since this began, she wasn't just running from something, she was running toward freedom. When she finally reached the end of the property, headlights appeared on the road ahead. For a second, she panicked until she saw the familiar dent in the front bumper. Emily. Her sister leaned across the passenger seat, eyes wide. Get in. Lauren dove in, slamming the door. Drive. Emily hit the gas, the car fishtailing on wet asphalt before speeding away from the house. Behind them, the porch light flickered, swallowed by distance and rain. Where now? Emily asked breathlessly. Lauren stared ahead, chest heaving. Channel 7, Rachel Cruz, she's expecting me. Emily hesitated. Are you sure about this? Once it's out there, there's no turning back, Lauren said, voice steady now. He took everything from me, my name, my peace, my trust. I'm not giving him my silence. At the Channel 7 headquarters in downtown Atlanta, the night shift crew was already on edge. When Lauren and Emily arrived, Rachel Cruz was waiting in the lobby, phone in one hand, expression tight with focus. Let's go upstairs, Rachel said. You're safe here. Lauren followed her through the glass doors into a narrow editing suite. Screens glowed with paused footage, the hum of computers filling the silence. Rachel gestured toward a chair. You brought the files? Lauren placed the soaked notebook on the table and slid over her phone. Photos of every page, transfer codes, account names, signatures. All tied to Ethan Mitchell. Rachel flipped through the images, her brow furrowing deeper with every line. These match the whistleblower files we got last month. This is enough to open an investigation, maybe shut them down completely. Lauren leaned back, trembling. Do it. Rachel met her eyes. Once this airs, they'll know it was you. I'm counting on that. The segment went live 12 hours later. Lauren sat in a small motel room, Emily beside her, watching on an old TV. Breaking news tonight: a corporate corruption scandal involving Meridian Dynamics and several high-ranking executives. Sources confirm a network of offshore accounts, falsified charity funds, and internal intimidation tactics reaching the federal level. Photos flashed on screen: ledgers, transfers, emails. Then Ethan's corporate headshot. Among those implicated is Vice President of Finance, Ethan Mitchell, who allegedly orchestrated the scheme and manipulated financial records using his spouse's identity. Lauren's breath caught. Her blurred interview appeared next, her voice distorted. "I believed him. I believed everything he said, and that's how he got away with it." Emily turned to her, whispering, "It's over." Lauren shook her head slowly. "No, it's only over when the truth stops costing lives." Within hours, everything exploded. News trucks surrounded Meridian's headquarters. Reporters hounded executives in parking lots. Ethan's name trended nationwide. By sunset, the FBI had announced a criminal investigation, and by nightfall, Ethan Mitchell had disappeared. For 3 days, Lauren couldn't sleep. She replayed everything: the betrayal, the affair, the files, the flash drives, Daniel's message. Was Daniel dead? Or had he vanished too, buried beneath the same truth she'd just unleashed? Rachel called on the 4th day. They found Ethan. Lauren's breath hitched. Alive? Yes, he turned himself in through his attorney. He's claiming you created the evidence. Lauren closed her eyes. Of course he is. The feds are verifying the documents. You're safe for now, but this won't be easy. I don't need easy, Lauren said quietly. I need real. The next morning, federal agents arrived at the motel to take her formal statement. She handed over everything: the notebook, the phone, even Daniel's files. One of the agents, an older woman named Agent Whitmore, studied her with sympathy. "You've done something most people never have the courage to do," she said, "but the fallout can be brutal. Are you ready for that?" Lauren hesitated. "No, but I'm ready to stop being afraid." Weeks passed. Ethan's arrest made national headlines. He faced 26 counts of fraud, obstruction, and conspiracy. Meridian Dynamics collapsed under federal pressure. Lauren's name was cleared. But public sympathy came with scrutiny. Strangers sent letters, some calling her a hero, others accusing her of revenge. She ignored them all. Because healing, she learned, wasn't a performance. One afternoon, she received a letter with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a photocopy of the first page of Daniel's hidden file. Across it, scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting, he wasn't the only one. She stared at it for a long time, her hands trembling. Then she noticed a small number sequence written at the bottom: GPS coordinates. She entered them into her phone. Savannah, Georgia. The location of one of Meridian's former research sites. Her breath quickened. Daniel. Maybe he'd left it. Maybe he was alive. That night, she sat on the balcony of her new apartment, the city stretching below like a quiet sea of light. Emily joined her with 2 mugs of tea. "So," Emily said softly, "are you going to Savannah?" Lauren didn't answer immediately. "If I do, it's not about revenge anymore." "What is it then?" "Closure," she said. "Or maybe just curiosity. Sometimes the truth comes in layers. Maybe I've only peeled back the first one." Emily nodded slowly. "And if it's dangerous?" Lauren gave a small, tired smile. "Danger doesn't scare me anymore. Lies do." They sat in silence, watching the city breathe beneath them. 2 weeks later, a new investigative segment aired. Rachel Cruz again, her voice calm but sharper now. In a development following the Meridian scandal, new documents suggest the corruption network extended beyond corporate walls, reaching into federal oversight agencies. A second whistleblower, previously presumed dead, has resurfaced with new evidence. Lauren froze, tea halfway to her lips. On the screen, blurred footage showed a man in a hoodie leaving a cafe, only his profile visible. But she recognized the walk, the tilt of the head, the quiet precision. Daniel. Alive. Resolution. Transition. She turned off the TV, heart pounding. Outside, thunder rolled distantly, a sound she'd come to associate with endings that weren't quite endings. She stood by the window, watching the rain start to fall again, thin and steady. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "He kept his promise." On the table lay the photocopy, the coordinates circled in red. She reached for her keys. Emily appeared in the doorway. "You're really going?" Lauren looked at her, eyes steady. "If he's alive, he deserves to be heard. And if he's not," she paused. "Then I need to see where the truth ends." Emily hesitated, then handed her a folded note. "Then take this, just in case you need a reason to come back." Lauren smiled faintly. "I have one." She slipped the note into her jacket pocket, stepped into the rain, and walked toward her car. As the headlights cut through the downpour, she glanced once more at the skyline in the rearview mirror, the city that had taken everything and, somehow, given her back something purer, clarity. The radio crackled faintly with a news update. Investigators now believe that Meridian's operations may have extended overseas. Lauren turned the volume down and whispered, "Of course they did." Her reflection in the window didn't look like the same woman who'd once scrubbed her husband's SUV out of love. This woman carried her truth like armor. When the interstate signs pointed towards Savannah, she exhaled slowly, almost peacefully. The storm clouds ahead glowed faintly with lightning, not a warning this time, but a path. She pressed her foot on the gas.